The All-Star break is over, and teams know what they are doing now. Will they desperately try and make the playoffs, or will they commit to the tank and try to race to the bottom of the standings? Because at the bottom of the standings is one of the most exciting draft classes in recent times. The 2017 NBA draft class has proven to be incredible, with Jayson Tatum, Josh Jackson, Dennis Smith Jr., Donovan Mitchell, and Kyle Kuzma all performing above expectations. But who lies in store for tanking teams this year? Which players fit which rosters, and who do I think are the best prospects this season? This video will cover it all in detail, by going through the top 11 picks of the 2018 NBA draft. As the standings are so congested down the bottom, I'm going to be using the team rankings predictions for the end of year standings. I found the model to be closest to my own predictions, and it uses strength of schedule and other stats to predict final win totals. I also chose to do 11 teams, as there are still 19 teams in contention for the playoffs, and I think that all 11 of the chosen teams will be in the lottery this season. Now, let's not waste any time, and let's dive right into my first 2018 NBA mock draft. And with the lowest amount of wins at 23.4, the Phoenix Suns will be picking first in my mock draft, and I have them taking DeAndre Ayton. I did a video a while back on Ayton and think that he is easily one of the best big man prospects to come around in a long time. He is a legitimate 7-footer who is absolutely ripped all the way through and has one of the most athletic bodies that reminds me of David Robertson and Karl Malone. Plus, he can shoot the ball from distance, rips down rebounds, and has demonstrated the ability to pass the ball and has great shot blocking capabilities. Now, Ayton isn't the perfect prospect. He seems to struggle with consistent effort at times and doesn't always have the best defensive positioning. But NBA teams will be hoping that this is similar to Ben Simmons in college and that he turns it around in the NBA, just like Ben Simmons. For the Phoenix Suns, Ayton makes a lot of sense. They already have young wing players in Booker, TJ Warren, and Josh Jackson, plus they have a point guard prospect in Elfrid Payton that they'll want to re-sign. Dragan Bender is really their only long-term big man prospect, and I think he projects as a guy who can play the 4 and some minutes at the 5. Plus, he can shoot the 3 ball really well and is a fantastic help and team defender, meaning that he could potentially help hide Ayton's early defensive problems. If the Phoenix Suns manage to win the lottery and land Ayton, they'll be set for the future. If they end up slipping to the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th picks, I could see them taking someone like Marvin Bagley earlier than most teams to get the big man that they need. And if for some reason they end up in the 5 to 8 range, I wouldn't be surprised to see them take Mo Bamba for the defensive big, as they have enough offense already. But with the first pick, I think Ayton is close to a slam dunk as you can get, and the Phoenix Suns would be stupid not to take him. Next up in the predictions is the Sacramento Kings with 25.7 wins, and they'll be picking second as a result. The Kings have a bit of a weird roster at the moment, with veterans and rookies that don't really share a timeline in the NBA. They have a heap of cap space in the offseason of 2019 and will be looking to then to really build their team up again. But they don't have that pick next year, and as a result might sign some bad deals once again to try and win. But the young players I like for them are Buddy Hield, DeAaron Fox, Skal Labissiere, and Willie Cauley-Stein. This gives the Kings a pretty glaring hole at the wing, and I think they will try to look and take a player at this position if they can. Obviously, if Ayton was available for whatever reason, I think they'd just take him, but at number 2, I think they would take Luka Doncic. The 6'8" wing from Slovenia is easily one of the best prospects to come out of Europe in a long time. He could play any position from point guard to small forward and would fit the Kings as a long-term ball handler. Fox and Hield are fine at ball handling, but neither of them are exceptional at setting up their teammates for easy scores. Doncic can do that, play defense, is a good defender, and a great shooter from 3. He is easily one of the most versatile and complete players available in this draft, and I think he would fit onto the Kings roster really well. If Mikal Porter Jr. was healthier, I think that he would likely get taken second. But Doncic is a safer pick, and whilst he might not have the same ceiling, he still has a heap of potential and a really high floor. And then, picking number 3 is the Atlanta Hawks, with 25.8 wins in total. The Hawks are similar to the Kings in that they are really just beginning their tank, but they own all their future picks and have less talented young players. I think going forward, Dennis Schroeder, John Collins, and Taurean Prince are 3 pieces I'd be happy to plan on keeping. But none of these guys are so good that I wouldn't take a player that shares that position, so the Hawks should just take the best player available. And I have them taking Mikal Porter Jr. I think the safer pick would be to take Marvin Bagley, but the Hawks don't have superstar level talent, and Porter could be that level of prospect. The injury scare that kept him out of the college season is rough, but he appears to be fully healthy again, and prospects like him don't come around often. He's a 6'11" small forward who has a fantastic shooting stroke and dribble for a player of his size, plus he's quick, athletic, and doesn't look awkward running up and down the court for someone who is so tall. Porter Jr. really fits into the mold of Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant when it comes to tall players who are skilled and smooth on the court. Plus, scoring wings are some of the best and rarest players in the entire NBA. Just look at guys like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Ben Simmons. There really aren't that many of them. These kinds of players create matchup nightmares and can influence the court on both ends and make their teammates better. And finding players to play guard and the big man role around them is easier than finding a great wing to play next to a great point guard. For all of these reasons, I have the Hawks taking perhaps the biggest risk of the draft and going with Michael Porter Jr. at number 3. Next up is the Cleveland Cavaliers after the Brooklyn Nets won 26.5 games and slotted in 4th. A lot of people think that the Nets have no incentive to tank, and whilst I'd agree, tanking teams can't trade players anymore and are locked in with their rosters. Coaches and players won't ever actively lose games, so I think that it is just on talent that will determine who falls where in the draft. And with no good big men, injuries to Jeremy Lin, and a lack of defense and scoring throughout the whole roster, the Brooklyn Nets are easily one of the worst teams in the league. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cavaliers picking in the top 5. And at the 4th pick, I have them taking Marvin Bagley Jr. If Bagley falls to the Cavaliers, they would be absolutely stoked with their luck. After the top 4 guys, I think everyone else is a pretty big risk, has some flaws as a player or is a one-sided player. But Bagley can play both sides of the court and has been scoring 21 points and grabbing 11 rebounds a game for Duke as one of the youngest freshmen in the country. He would be perfect for Cleveland as he could contribute right away and fix some of their big man issues if LeBron James stays. Due to his offensive and defensive versatility, he would be able to play alongside Kevin Love and still space the floor on the offensive end. And if LeBron did leave Cleveland in the end, he would give them a young prospect with a huge amount of upside to help start their rebuild. Bagley has an insanely high potential and is a player that most teams would be thrilled to be able to build around. Any of the previous 3 picks would be great for Cleveland, but for some reason I think Bagley would fit really well on a contender or a rebuilding team, making him absolutely perfect for the Cavs. Picking at number 5 is the Orlando Magic with 27.3 wins in my imaginary win-loss countdown. The Magic are in my opinion the worst run franchise and have one of the worst rosters in the entire league, when you take into account their contracts, flexibility, and just how many top picks they have had. They have a roster full of medium NBA veterans on contracts that are way too big, and Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac, and Nikola Vucevic are the only players they have going forward that I like on their contracts. The Magic will be gunning for a top 4 pick, as the 4 guys mentioned before are incredibly solid and very safe picks. But after the top 4, the risks start coming in. Some of these players might boom, and some will peter out into busts or role players around the league. At the 5th pick, I have the Magic taking Trae Young, the freshman point guard from Oklahoma who is turning heads with his 3-point shooting, quickness, and passing. Trae is probably one of the bigger risk picks in the draft. People will say he could be the next Steph Curry, but he could also be the next Jimmer Fredette. Guys who shoot threes at the rate he does in college are just hard to predict. But Trae is doing this in his freshman season, unlike Jimmer who spent years dominating in college and building his skill set up. This bodes well for Young as he has more years to develop in the NBA, and there is no doubting that he can shoot the lights out of the ball, recent shooting slump put aside. But he will struggle to guard NBA point guards as he is undersized and very lean, meaning he won't have the strength to stop Westbrook, John Wall, and other big point guards. But if he puts in the work to become a solid positional and team defender, teams will be able to hide his deficiencies and make him work. On offense, I really like Trae. Shooting and passing are both off the charts for a 19-year-old point guard, and while his handles could use a little tightening, they are very good. He is a bit slower than Steph in my opinion and not as good at getting to and finishing at the rim, but this can develop over the next 4 years. At pick number 5, Trae Young has the best chance of becoming a superstar, and if I'm the Magic, I'm re-signing Aaron Gordon and taking the risk with Trae. Next up is the Chicago Bulls with 28.2 wins and the 6th pick in the draft, a pick that I have them selecting Mo Bamba with. The Chicago Bulls already have fantastic young options at guard in Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine, and Lauri Markkanen looks set to head the offense and the power forward spot for years to come. And whilst Bobby Portis is showing more and more as the season goes on, he makes for the perfect bench big. If the Bulls were picking higher and Doncic or Michael Porter were available, I think that they would take one of these two and slot them in at the 3 and then get a defensive big to work at the 5. But at number 6, Mo Bamba presents a fantastic athletic option for the center position. Athletically, Mo Bamba is off the charts. He is 7 foot tall with a 7'9" wingspan, which sets him up to be a fantastic rim protector in the NBA, and is averaging 3.9 blocks and 11 rebounds a game in college, whilst having fantastic advanced defensive statistics, indicating that this will all transfer to the NBA. And then on the offensive end, he can catch lobs, run pick and rolls, and is working on his 3-point stroke. If he can continue to develop his shot and offensive game whilst keeping the effort and intensity on the defensive end, Bamba could become an absolutely amazing two-way player. Plus, Bamba's ceiling on offense is really high as well. He is incredibly fast, strong, and long. He could develop some kind of offensive game and become a simply incredible player. With Bamba, Levine, Markkanen, and Dunn, the Bulls would have pulled off a quick rebuild, and one more season of tanking would see them with 5 super young and super talented players. With the 7th pick and 28.5 wins, I had the Dallas Mavericks selecting Jaren Jackson Jr. Jackson is a bit of a strange prospect and one that some draft boards have going as high as the 2nd pick, but I just can't see it at this point. He is only playing 21 minutes a game, and whilst he is averaging 11 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 blocks a game in those minutes, while shooting 44% from 3, I just don't know if it will translate to the NBA. To me, Jaren Jackson looks like one of those prospects who is fantastic on paper, but doesn't make it in the NBA. He isn't as athletic as guys like Bagley, Ayton, and Bamba, and scores a lot by simply being bigger than his college opposition. Plus, his 3-point shot mechanics are a bit weird. Sometimes he shoots very early, he has a flat shot, and I think longer defenders might be able to bother it a bit more. He relies a lot on dribbling past people and scoring in the post and paint, but he isn't exceptionally explosive and his dribble is very poor. Up against NBA defenders, these areas where he scores will get taken away a lot more frequently, which leaves his defense to be the thing he will rely upon to make it in the league. And I like his defense, but again, I have this feeling that due to his smaller frame and slight lack of agility and pace, he might not be able to transfer it as well to the NBA. Plus, why is he only playing 23 minutes a game in college if he is so good? These are all questions I have, but there is no doubt he has top 10 talent, and similar to Trey Young, if he puts it all together, he would be a defensive force who can stretch the floor by shooting threes on the other end, and that is incredibly valuable. Dallas also have a bit of a hole at the big man position and would love to snap him up and keep that rebuild going. But he isn't the prospect they'll be hoping for, and I'd imagine they want to finish a little lower in the lottery and pick somebody else. Coming in at number 8 is the Memphis Grizzlies with the same amount of wins as the Mavericks, but I put them in 8th as I think they have a bit more defense and will finish with more wins. I have them taking Mchale Bridges. The Grizzlies lack depth at the wing, and Mchale is an incredibly solid wing who will give you everything on the court. There are concerns with Bridges being a junior, but I think he was just a slow developer and he has all the tools to be a solid NBA player and even a great one. His ceiling definitely isn't as high as some of the other guys in this draft, but he is athletic and tall for a shooting guard and is a really, really good defender. Plus, he is shooting 42% from 3 this season, scoring 17 points a game on good percentages, and is doing everything on the court as well. This kind of safe pick who still has upside would be perfect for the Grizzlies, as they opted to keep Mike Conley and Marc Gasol over the past few seasons and could make another playoff run next year. Personally, I would have traded Gasol and Conley if I was the Grizzlies, but they didn't, and Bridges could help them get back to the playoffs if they make some solid free agency acquisitions. Plus, if he does develop into something special, he will be their first major piece after the departure of Conley and Gasol in the future. Coming in at the 9th spot is the New York Knicks with 33.1 wins. The poor Knicks were competing for the playoffs with Porzingis, but fate dealt them a tough hand when KP went down with his injury and left them with a heap of wins before the All-Star break. They will do their best to tank, but the roster still has a fair bit of talent and will probably win too many games to get close to the high end of the lottery. So with the 9th pick, I have them taking Wendell Carter Jr., the second freshman big man on Duke. Wendell has played the second fiddle to Marvin Bagley, but he has played it really well and shows a lot of potential as a raw big man. He is shooting an incredible 58% from the field and 50% from 3 and 71.5% from the free throw line. All of this points to a big man who could end up being able to space the floor in the big league. Then on the defensive end, he has fantastic positioning and timing on his blocks, staying down low until the last minute before leaping for the rejection. He has been getting a lot of the tougher offensive assignments to allow Bagley more time to rest down the defensive end, and he's done a really good job at guarding anyone assigned to him. I think the Knicks would see his shooting and finishing ability and his defense and view him as a fantastic complementary piece to Porzingis. They could play the 4 and 5 down low, and the Knicks would be able to run a 5-out offense or 4-out on Porzingis inside. And then on defense, Carter could take the tougher assignment or allow Porzingis to guard the inside player on the other team as he struggles going out to the perimeter. Now, Wendell Carter Jr. is definitely not a sure thing, but with the 9th pick, his upside and the potential fit with Porzingis, I like the pick. Then, Philadelphia will likely receive the LA Lakers pick this season, and I have it falling to the 10th spot. And with this pick, I think Philly will take Mikal Bridges, who is not the brother of Mchale. Philly won't be looking for a big man, and they already have their point guard spot locked up with Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz, so I think they'll want to add as many quality wings who can shoot and defend to surround their young core. In a similar vein to Dario Saric and Robert Covington, Bridges fits this role. He can shoot the 3, pass, and defend, and this is the perfect trio of skills needed alongside Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Plus, he's pretty good at finishing around the rim and is an incredibly explosive athlete and will get out and run in transition alongside Simmons and Fultz. This kind of young, energetic player would be the perfect fit to the squad, and for the 10th pick, he seems really solid. I wouldn't be surprised if he went slightly higher, and if someone like Dallas or even the Knicks took him over the big men that I have them taking. Philly would be a fantastic team for Bridges to come into as well. I don't think he would start right away, but the Philly bench has wing minutes for the taking, and Miles would grab at least 20 of them. Plus, he would benefit so much from the defensive attention that Embiid and Simmons receive. He is lightning quick and can shoot, meaning that he can shoot if defenses sag off him or attack quickly if they close out too fast. I really like this pick for Philly and have well and truly convinced myself he is perfect for them at 10. Finally, we have the Charlotte Hornets, a franchise who is constantly trying to get to the playoffs but constantly falling just short. And they will fall short of the talent here as well, as after 10, no one really jumps out to me. But I have them taking Kevin Knox at number 11, an athletic small forward who can shoot the 3 is the kind of player that every team wants. And when the rest of the talent pool is filled with small or senior guards and really raw big men, I think that taking an athletic wing who can shoot is the way to go. Knox won't be a world beater in the NBA, and he needs to work on his defense, shot selection, and handles, but the potential is all there. And funnily enough, they drafted Malik Monk last year, and this would give them 2 young athletic shooting wings that could easily bust as they boom. But that is what happens when you just miss the playoffs and have to draft late. There are less sure things and a lot more risks. The Hornets would have high hopes for Knox, but whether or not fills them is yet to be seen, whatever team he plays for. That is it, guys. Thanks for watching all the way through if you are here, and if you enjoyed the mock draft, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for videos every Thursday and Sunday, and leave a comment with all your thoughts on this upcoming draft. Who do you have going higher, anyone lower, and let me know any potential sleeper draft picks you have, all in the comments below.